Rain fell hard that night, the kind that soaks through your clothes in seconds and makes everything feel heavier than it already is. In a quiet, run-down corner of the city, under the flickering glow of a broken streetlight, a young mechanic named Armin was locking up his tiny garage. It had been another long day of patching up old engines for little money, barely enough to keep the lights on. He lived simply, greasy hands, second-hand clothes, and a heart full of quiet resilience. Life hadn't been kind, but he never complained. He fixed what he could and moved on. But that night, something felt off. As he turned the key to shut the shop, a faint sound cut through the pounding rain. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, almost like a cry. At first, he thought it was just the wind playing tricks, but then he heard it again, softer this time, but real. He stepped out into the rain, squinting into the dark alley next to the garage, and that's when he saw her. A girl, slumped against the wall, drenched from head to toe. Her hair clung to her face, and her clothes, once elegant, clearly expensive, were now torn and muddy. But it wasn't just the sight of her that stopped Armin in his tracks. It was the heavy iron chain wrapped around her ankle, bolted to a metal pipe beside the wall. For a moment, he just stood there, stunned. This wasn't something you see every day. A chained girl in the rain, silent and trembling, looking like she didn't belong in this world at all. She didn't speak. She just stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. Armin's instincts kicked in. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked carefully, stepping closer. No answer. He looked around. No one else was there. The alley was empty, silent, except for the rain hitting the pavement. It was late. Whoever had left her like this clearly didn't want her to be found. He crouched beside her, keeping his voice calm. "My name's Armin. I'm not gonna hurt you, but I need to know what's going on." Her lips trembled. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Only a whisper came out. "Please, help me." That was enough. He ran back into his shop, grabbed his toolbox, and within minutes he was kneeling in the puddles, trying to break the lock. It was old, but strong. Whoever chained her up hadn't wanted her getting away. He could barely see through the rain and the dim light, but he worked fast, hands shaking from cold and adrenaline. Finally, with a loud click, the lock gave way. The chain fell. She gasped, collapsing into his arms. Too weak to stand on her own, Armin didn't waste time. He carried her into his garage, wrapped her in an old, clean blanket, and set her down on the small couch he used during overnight repair shifts. He turned on the space heater and offered her some tea, not asking questions. Not yet. As the warmth returned to her cheeks, she looked at him, really looked. Her eyes were sharp beneath the fear, like someone used to power, not pity. She still hadn't told him her name. She hadn't told him anything, and Armin, being who he was, didn't press. He just said, "You're safe now." Whoever did this bolted to a rusted pipe behind her. Armin froze. For a second, he didn't know if he was seeing right. Who chained someone in the middle of the city? He took a cautious step forward, water sloshing under his worn-out shoes. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, voice low and unsure. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't answer, just shook her head slightly. She tried to pull away from the wall, but the chain yanked her back. Armin could see the skin around her ankle was raw, bruised from struggling. His stomach turned. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quickly, raising both hands. "Let me help." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded faintly. That was all he needed. He ran back to his garage, grabbed his tools, and rushed back. The bolt was old and stubborn, but he managed to loosen it. The whole time, the girl didn't say a word. She just kept glancing around like she was scared someone was watching. Once she was free, Armin helped her stand. She winced, clearly in pain. "My place is just next door," he said. "You can rest there. I'll get you some dry clothes." She hesitated, then followed, limping slightly. Inside his small living space was cramped and plain. A narrow cot, a wobbly table, and a heater that barely worked. But it was warm and safe. He handed her a towel and a clean hoodie. She disappeared into the corner to change. And when she came back, she looked a little more human. Still pale, still scared, but no longer trembling. "My name's Armin," he said gently. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. Just, are you in danger?" She hesitated, then gave the smallest nod. "My name is Alina," she whispered. "I can't go back." And that was it. No more words, just silence. Over the next few days, she stayed hidden in his place. Armin didn't push her for answers. He brought her food, found her warmer clothes, and let her rest. Slowly, her guard began to drop. One morning, as the rain finally gave way to sun, she sat at his table and said, "You're the first person who's helped me without asking for anything." Armin shrugged. "You looked like you needed it." She smiled for the first time. But things weren't as simple as they seemed. One night, while Armin was out fixing a customer's car down the street, a black SUV slowed near his garage. Two men in dark coats stepped out, glanced around, and then walked past like nothing had happened. When Armin returned, he found Alina pacing nervously. "They're looking for me," she said quietly. "I saw them through the window. They know. I'm close." "Who are they?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes glassy with fear. "My family's security." But not the good kind. The truth finally came out. Alina wasn't just some lost girl. She was the only daughter of a powerful billionaire real estate tycoon, Rajveer Malhotra. Her family owned half the city's skyline. But behind the perfect public image, things were falling apart. Her father had fallen into debt with dangerous people. To save face, he'd made a secret deal to marry Alina off to a rival billionaire's son in exchange for an alliance. When she refused, she was locked up. Kept out of sight, no one would believe her. To the public, she was traveling abroad. "I escaped through a service tunnel during a storm," she said. "I didn't think I'd make it." Armin couldn't believe what he was hearing. A billionaire heiress, chained up by her own family. It sounded like a movie, but the fear in her eyes was real, and the bruises on her ankle, those were real too. He knew he should call someone. Maybe the police, maybe a lawyer, but deep down, he didn't trust the system to protect someone like her. Not when her family had money and reach that went beyond the law. "I'm not going to let them take you back," he said. "You could get hurt," she replied. "I've been hurt before. Doesn't mean I'll stop doing what's right." But helping Alina came with consequences. The next day, a man came to the garage pretending to be a customer. But Armin noticed how he kept looking around instead of at the engine. Then another guy came later that night, asking odd questions. It was clear someone had traced her here. Armin decided they had to leave. He packed a small bag, took some savings he had stashed away, and told Alina they were going to lay low in a small town 2 hours away. But just as they were about to leave, the power went out. The hum of the city went silent. A moment later, the sound of tires screeched outside. Flashlights, footsteps, voices. "They found us," Alina whispered. Armin looked around, heart pounding. There was no back door, nowhere to run. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the men who entered the shop didn't look like the rest. His coat was clean, his voice calmer. He didn't pull a weapon. Instead, he looked right at Alina and said, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to get you out for good." She froze. "Who sent you?" He paused. "Your mother." Alina's face went pale. "My mother died years ago." "Not exactly." The man said, "There's a lot you don't know, but if you want to live free, you have to trust me." Armin stepped in between them. "You'll have to go through me first." The man raised his hands. "Fair enough. But time's running out. Your father's deal is falling apart, and there are worse people coming. People who don't care about blood or money." Alina looked torn. Armin could see her shaking. Everything she thought she knew was crumbling. And just then, from outside, they heard another car pull up. Only this one wasn't quiet. It was loud, armored, and followed by more men. Different men. And this time, they weren't asking questions. Alina turned to Armin, eyes wide. "What do we do now?" He looked at her, then at the man claiming to work for her mother. Outside, the shadows grew. Inside, the clock was ticking. Armin didn't have time to think. The sound of heavy boots crunching the gravel outside grew louder. Whoever was in that armored vehicle, they weren't here for a chat. He grabbed Alina's hand and whispered, "We go through the back." "There is no back," she hissed. "I'll make one." Without a second thought, Armin ran to the wall where old metal sheets hung loose and started tearing them off with a crowbar. The mystery man, Alina's supposed ally, helped without question. In seconds, they'd pried open just enough space for one person to squeeze through. "Go," Armin said to Alina. "I'm not leaving without you," she snapped, eyes flashing, but the footsteps were right outside now. Doors slammed, voices shouted. Armin gave her a push. "Now!" She slipped through, the other man right behind. Armin crawled out last, scraping his shoulder on the metal. Just as they hit the alley behind the shop, the garage door burst open with a bang. Shouts echoed behind them. They ran, down alleys, across puddle-filled streets, dodging between buildings. Armin knew this part of town better than anyone. He cut through the old train yard and into an abandoned warehouse he used to work in. Only then did they stop to breathe. The man finally spoke. "My name is Kabir. I worked for your mother, Alina. Before she vanished, she died," Alina said. Kabir shook his head. "No, she was forced into hiding after she tried to expose your father's deals. He's not just doing shady business. He's laundering money for dangerous men. Arms, property scams, illegal trading. She tried to stop it. So he had her declared dead and took you under control." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "She's alive? She's been watching over you," Kabir said. "I'm here because she found out you escaped. She wanted me to find you before he did." It was a lot to take in, but Armin believed him. The man risked his life to help them, and there was something in his eyes. He wasn't lying. They didn't have much time. Kabir had a car waiting nearby. He said it would take them to a private airstrip outside the city, where Alina's mother was waiting. But before they could move, Armin heard the familiar hum of engines again. This time, they were surrounded. From every side, black cars rolled in. Men with earpieces fanned out, weapons drawn but hidden behind coats. Leading them was a sharp-faced man in a grey suit, Alina's father. "You made me do this," he said coldly, stepping forward. "You think you understand how this world works, Alina. You don't. I built everything. And you, my daughter, you don't just walk away from that." Alina stood tall, shaking but unflinching. "You built a prison." He laughed bitterly. "That's the price of power. You don't get to be soft in this world." Kabir stepped in front of her. "It's over, Rajveer. We have everything. Proof, files, the accounts. Your enemies aren't just chasing you anymore. They've turned on you. The older man's eyes narrowed. You won't make it out of here. But before anyone could act, sirens screamed in the distance. Police cars. Real ones this time. Flashing blue and red lights filled the night. Kabir gave a tight smile. We didn't come alone. Rajveer looked around, realizing the trap had closed around him. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Arman turned to Alina. It's your call. Do we run or face him? She stepped forward, voice clear. I'm not running anymore. Officers stormed the place. Chaos followed. Orders shouted, guns lowered, hands cuffed. Rajveer tried to protest, but it was too late. Everything was coming out. The corrupt deals, the secret accounts, the fake story of his wife's death. And in the middle of all that, stood a girl who had once been chained in the rain, now free. The next few days moved fast. Alina was reunited with her mother, a graceful woman with the same fire in her eyes. News outlets exploded with the story of a billionaire heiress, found in hiding, rescued by a poor mechanic. The truth spread quickly about Rajveer's crimes, the forced engagement, and the people who tried to silence her. But none of it mattered more than the quiet moment Alina and Arman shared. On a quiet bench outside the courthouse. You changed everything, she said softly. I was just a broken girl in the rain. You gave me a reason to fight. I didn't do much, Arman replied. Just fixed what was broken. She smiled. That's more than most people ever do. He didn't ask for anything. Didn't expect thanks or money. He just wanted to see her safe. But Alina had plans of her own. With her inheritance finally in her control, she decided to build something new. Not skyscrapers or malls, but shelters. Safe houses for runaway girls. And she asked Arman to help her design them, fix them, and give others the second chance he gave her. And so the poor mechanic and the billionaire heiress built something powerful, together, not from money or fame, but from trust, courage, and kindness in a world that often forgets what those things mean. And sometimes all it takes is stopping for someone in the rain to change a life forever, because true wealth isn't in money, it's in moments like that. And that's how a simple act of humanity turned into a story the city would never forget.